G'day guys, welcome to the Unofficial Scorecard Podcast, a podcast where we talk all things boxing and occasionally the wider world of combat sports. This is episode 77, Knuckle Down style. Guys, if you have not seen or listened to a Knuckle Down version of this podcast before, it's where myself and the man, the myth, the legend, the ABS, the Aussie Boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox. We team up, we join together, and we deep dive for an in-depth preview on a particular fight. And guys, it is fight week for Michael Zerafa and Nikita Tszyu. So this is the Knuckle Down Tszyu Zerafa. So guys, as mentioned, we jump in, Anthony and I, as best we can to cover that fight from all angles and ultimately work our way into a most likely incorrect fight prediction. But that's how it goes, man. You got to have a crack, and what can you do? Sometimes you're wrong. So, guys, we also covered a ton of stuff in this episode as well. We talk about Liam Paro, his implications with Paddy Donovan pulling out, getting thrust into seemingly a world title opportunity with Lewis Crock, his previous fight against David Papo, and more. We jump back and have a look at recent performances from Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani. Of course, we had to touch on the absolute war that happened only 24 hours ago from time of recording when Dalton Smith knocked out Subriel Matias to win the world title at 140 pounds. Guys, we had a quick little run-through preview at the end also of Andy Cruz's upcoming IBF lightweight title challenge against Raymond Murataya, the return of Israel Madrimov, and then we've got a massive weekend, guys, coming up on February 1st Australian time with Xander Zayas defending his title against Abbas Barao, the WBO Super Welterweight title, the return of Tszyu Conqueror, Bakram Motazaliev defending his title against Josh Kelly in the UK, and the massive, much talked about matchup between Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, plus the rest of that card. Guys, of course, there were more tangents as well. It's always an absolute pleasure to talk to Tony. So, guys, let's get to the main point of this Knuckle Down and get to my chat with Tony Cox. All right, well, it's a massive fight week in Australia. Get your $69.95 out of your pocket and get ready to spend it on some domestic fights, because that's how we do it in this country. So who better to break it all down with than the Aussie Boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox, a.k.a. Tony Cupcakes, a.k.a. Cuppers. Cuppers, thanks for coming back on, mate. Good to chat.
Good to be here, Zach, as always.
It's a big fight week, mate, so let's not beat around the bush and get straight to it. We've obviously got the massive fight, Michael Zerafa, at a catch weight, actually, of 157 pounds, which I didn't work out what that is in kilos, but halfway between junior middleweight and middleweight, fighting with the biggest step up of his career so far, Nikita Tszyu. So straight off the bat, mate, we're going to jump right into this matchup from all angles, but it's being billed as the biggest grudge match in Australian history and the biggest fight of the year and all these type of things. Just in terms of the scale of the fight, taking out sort of the mainstream noise or the mainstream noise that the promoters are trying to generate, how big do you actually think this fight truly is?
I think it's impossible to sort of talk about the fight without the promotional hype around it. And a lot of that was built off Tim's rivalry with Michael and their fight falling through at the last minute. So they've kind of tried to transplant that over to Nikita and make it into a kind of a family blue thing. Just in terms of the fight itself, I think it's a very intriguing fight. I think it's a very close fight on paper. And I think it's one that boxing fans should be very excited about. Nikita hasn't been tested at anywhere near this level. And really, Michael's been up there for a long time, and the question around him will be, you know, has he slid much in the last couple of years? Now that he's in his 30s and has been sort of fighting at the top level or thereabouts for quite some time. So I still think it's a big fight, but certainly not the way it's being hyped to the general public.
Yeah, it's funny. I was driving to work this morning, and I had it on Triple M in Melbourne, which is sort of the, you know, basically your standard older male sort of tradie radio station, and there was a radio ad for Zerafa Tszyu, which I was quite surprised to hear. So they're obviously putting the full promotional muscle behind it, especially now that Fight Week's officially kicked off. It's, yeah, you said that, and I agree with you that it seems to be the promotion has tried to, sub out Tim for Nikita and still try and claim or market it as just as big of a fight. It certainly isn't, but I mean, like I feel like Zerafa and Tim would have garnered a little bit more overseas attention, whereas I think this fight's just fully dedicated to the domestic audience, which there's nothing wrong with. I actually quite like the fight. It's one hell of an intriguing one. So you mentioned there about Michael Zerafa potentially still being at that top level. So let's start with him. What are your thoughts on specifically Michael heading into these fights, into this fight, on Friday?
Sure. Up until a couple of days ago, till I started looking back at sort of some of his more recent fights back to back to back, I was sort of not sure what to think about where he was in his career, because he has had a couple of, obviously had the loss to Lara, and he had a fairly lukewarm performance against Daniele Creati, which now doesn't look so bad when you put it in the context of how crafty Creati is. I don't think Zerafa has slipped that much at all. Like, I think he's had a couple of performances where he could have done better, but I don't think his skill set has fallen off a cliff by any stretch of the imagination. In the Lara fight in particular, he really didn't do anything wrong until he just got caught a little bit out of position by a very crafty puncher and got his lights put out. I think he's got the skills and experience to really test Nikita. I think the fights that I went back and watched, a few of the fights, there's not much you can take much out of, like the Mikey Dalman fight, which was over and around. Again, the Lara fight's a little bit hard to say much about. The Tommy Brown one, he injured his arm. So I guess maybe the lack of activity with sort of higher class opposition over the last sort of 4 years or so may be an issue. But look, he's got all the experience in the world. I think he's still punching sharp, and he's got that ring generalship. He knows where to be. He knows how to get in and out. He knows how to create angles. I think Nikita's team may have underestimated him a little bit as far as where he is in his career.
Yeah, it is an interesting one too, because also I thought he looked great in that win over Basir.
Yes.
I remember I'd never heard of Basir. I watched a couple of his fights before that one, and I was like, damn, man, this Basir, he can fight. This guy's a good, like, European level fighter. And I thought Zerafa was sort of rather dominant until he stopped him. It was probably his best performance since Hardman out of the lot, and got some valuable rounds too, because rounds have certainly been hard for him to gain in recent years. So I'm sort of looking at it two ways. Like, this recent time where he hasn't really gone a lot of rounds, hasn't fought a super high level of competition outside of Erislandy Lara, could have freshened him up a bit, with those brutal fights with Jeff Horn and being rather busy as a young bloke in the first part of his career. It really could have freshened him up. Or, I mean, the flip side of the coin to that, and I haven't seen any evidence to suggest this, but it's certainly possible that, maybe this is all the activity that he can sort of muster. I think he's only 33 years of age currently, but, turned pro at 18. This will be his 40th fight. A lot of amateur fights. He's been making weight since he was literally a kid. Before he was a teenager, he's been in this sport forever. It's like, maybe this is all he sort of, this schedule is all he can sort of muster at this sort of stage of his career. So there definitely is two ways to look at it. But I tend to agree with you. I think it certainly will have freshened him up a lot more. I mentioned the catch weight, 157 pounds. So I actually love this. I never really felt like Michael was a full-fledged middleweight. The overwhelming majority of his success came at 154. I think sort of settling in at 160 maybe was just due to, getting closer to 30 and into his 30s. It's easier not to brush off those last couple of pounds. And I think he just found himself with that ranking after the first Horn fight at 160 and sort of took advantage of it. So I actually think we're going to see a really, pretty... Unless Michael sort of got old overnight, so to speak, I think we're going to see a great version of him. I love 157 for him. What do you make of the catch weight?
Yeah, I reckon it suits him too as well. I believe that's 71 kilos in the in the modern Zach. I don't know what that is in centimetres and kilometres, but 71 kilos, I believe.
We'll ask AI.
But yeah, no, the Becerra fight, I thought he looked fantastic. He looked very sharp against a capable opponent. As you said, not a world beater in Becerra, but certainly a very solid European level fighter who knew how to fight. He wasn't one of these Euros that's been sent out here to, survive and get rolled over. And he put up a good fight. He landed some shots on Zerafa. Like he made a contest of it. He didn't. I don't think he really won a round, but he had a decent dip, and he didn't just come out here to collect a paycheck. And I think that was probably exactly the sort of hit out that Zerafa needed. Just a solid enough opponent that's going to make you think in there and make you work a little bit, keep you sharp, get your timing and your rhythm right, and really that's the only fight of note in since 2022 that he's had in terms of getting in some quality rounds. Again, take nothing away from Creati, but that was just an awkward fight that you come out with the win and you go, what do I really get out of that other than 10 frustrating rounds? But yeah, I think he's come out of that okay. I think he might be onto something. Him being a little bit sort of lightly raced at this stage of his career, where he doesn't need those really hard fights or that massive schedule. He just needs the right fights at the right time. And I certainly think a big domestic fight like this, with obviously a big paycheck attached to it, is probably perfect for him right now at this stage of his career.
Yeah. And I guess the other glaring sort of question mark over Zerafa, and maybe it's an unfair one, but and I think you and I will have the same note written down on our notepads, it's really his training team and who he's training with. For me, I don't know. Apparently it was Nonito Donaire. I'm pretty sure Nonito's not out here in the country in the gym holding the pads for him. I don't know if that is still a relationship that they've kept intact, if they talk once a week and send sparring footage back and forth and have a chat on WhatsApp about game plans. I don't know. Maybe Zerafa's got a completely different local team based out wherever his new gym is. I don't know if he has. I'm not familiar with those people, which isn't to say that they're not qualified for the job or anything like that. I just don't know. Maybe Zerafa's just kind of doing his own thing. He might feel like he's got enough experience at this point that, he just needs someone to give him a bit of water and someone to wrap his hands in, and he's good to go. I really don't know, but I think it was important to note that the three best recent performances that Zerafa's had, which were both the Horn fights and the fight with Isaac Hardman, was when he was still with Sam Labruna. And I know we all know that relationship ended badly, and there was a split and I believe lawsuits and whatever the case has happened. But the point I'm trying to make is that I feel like Zerafa has performed the best when he's been a part of one particular coaching system or under the tutelage of one voice, for a 8-week camp, a 10-week camp, a 12-week camp, whatever it may be. It seems like when he's kind of been out on his own, the results have been up and down a little bit. So I would love to know. I hope someone asks him at a press conference or someone this week, like what his actual training situation is, or even you, Tone, you got your ear to the ground in the scene. Do you have any, do you know more than me? Because I basically know nothing about his training situation or how he's been preparing for this.
I wish I knew. I wish I had some information to share with you. I really don't know. I'm not sure who's in his team these days, or sort of how settled they are as a unit. So so there's always question marks for me with boxers when they're sort of chopping and changing their training teams and things like that. And you want consistency. If you don't have consistency and routine around you, knowing the people that are going to be around you, the way they're going to speak to you in the corner, the way you train with them on a day-to-day basis, those sort of things, there's always a few question marks for me around that.
Yeah, no, it's certainly something to keep an eye on for sure. But let's move over to Nikita now. This is a massive, massive step up. And I just did a little bit of a comparison between him and Tim just to sort of illustrate the point. So just bear with me for a sec. But Tim's first 11 fights, His combined opponent's record was 108 wins and 57 losses. For Nikita, through his first 11 fights, it was 86 wins and 12 losses. So Tim did it in just under 2 years. It's a little over that for Nikita. Also worth noting that Tim did fight Wade Ryan in his 7th fight, which was a pretty darn tough one at that time, and all credit to him for taking it. Tim fought one undefeated fighter in his first 11 fights. It was Ruben Webster. That was in his 8th fight, but Webster's combined opponent's record at that point was 16 wins and 98 losses. So, we can make of that what we will. Also worth noting for Tim that he fought Marcus Jesus Cornejo in Bendigo on the Andrew Maloney Lewis Conception card, which was actually the night that people don't know this, that I stalked you in real life to get you on the pod. I just rocked up to Tone Cold and just went, "Hey man, I'm Zach. I do a pod. Want to come on?" It was crazy. And then interesting too, Marcus Jesus Cornejo, the fight before, had lost to Christian Mabili, who at the time we didn't know who Christian Mabili was, but just a little side note. And then Cornejo went on to lose 6 of his the next 6 fights of his career, 4 by stoppage up to this date. So with Nikita, he's fought 7 undefeated opponents and stopped all of them, admittedly domestic level guys. And I believe he's been the main event on every card since the Jack Brubaker fight, which was his 7th fight. And there was also 4 pay-per-views in there with Dylan Biggs, Danilo Criati, Callum Mazudia, and the last guy, Ismaili. So in terms of career development between Tim and Nikita, holy hell, man, Nikita's under way more pressure. Fought, at the highest level you can in Australia, domestic pay-per-view. Like that's the cream of the crop. He's almost a seasoned veteran, whereas at this stage in Tim's career, he was still building. He was still traveling the country just trying to get fights on undercards. Nikita's kind of been that secondary face of No Limit for the last 18 months. It is really quite a stark difference. I always thought in terms of ability early, Nikita looked to show me more ability than Tim did. But like Tim later in his career, and we've spoken about a million times, started getting reckless, which led to some, vicious losses. I feel like Nikita, like from his 2nd or 3rd fight, he was throwing caution to the wind. So it definitely is interesting to see how fast and how heavy they've pushed Nikita in terms of matchmaking. I mean, as fans, we love to see it, but so I guess the question from all that remains, Tone, is it too much too soon? What do you think?
Well, just in the way that Tim and Nikita have both been developed, I think you'll find that there were quite separate plans by Glenn Jennings. Certainly with Tim, his plan was always to sort of do a barnstorming tour of the country, build up his name off TV, rather than have him in his father's shadow, so to speak, and really build his profile at that local level around the country, off TV, fighting on undercards, things like that. Whether that was a case of wanting to avoid the perception that he was a silver spoon athlete, or what the real motivation was, or if they genuinely wanted to create him into his own brand. I'd maybe a little bit of both. With Nikita, obviously having the door already kind of kicked open for him with Tim and No Limit, and I think perhaps his attitude as well is, well, if I'm going to be there, I want to be under the bright lights and do it that way. So it might be a little bit of a personality difference between the two boxers, but certainly a different plan from Glenn Jennings and the way he's managed their careers, and obviously with the teams around him, they've all agreed to that. I kind of like Tim's approach. I'm a big fan of that sort of, a bit like Mike Tyson fighting on the smokers before anyone knew who he was, and build up a reputation away from the cameras, sort of thing, and build his confidence as well without that pressure on. So maybe it comes down to the psychology of the fighters too, what they prefer and what's going to get the best out of them. Certainly Nikita seems to enjoy the spotlight probably more than Tim in a lot of ways. And you're right, they have moved him quickly, and again, it's a sport with no safety net, and even less of a safety net when it's being broadcast around the country and around the world. So he seems to thrive under that sort of pressure. Is it too much too soon? Well, time will tell, and he's got a big test on his on his hand this week. So if he comes through this with flying colours, then I dip my lid to him. I think he's done a fantastic job. And at the end of the day, the sport's about risk. And if you're not prepared to take risks, you shouldn't be in it. So that said, Nikita seems very much a risk taker. Is he taking too big of a risk? Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. So how do you see the actual style clash playing out?
Yeah, okay, a couple of things. Obviously, Nikita being a southpaw, he, and like a lot of southpaws, can kind of square up at times, and he does have a fairly square-on stance. He does seem to move almost exclusively one way, which is to his left, which is something you don't often see in southpaws. And I'm certainly not of the school of thought that you should only move to your right if you're a southpaw. But I'm also not of the school of thought that you should only move to your left either. I think you've got to be able to move both ways there. We know he can be caught. We know he can be hurt. Now, Nikita might say that he never hurt me. Well, he may not feel the physical pain, but his body has betrayed him when he's been hit, when he's been dropped to the canvas or gone all wobbly like this. It might not be physical pain like, ow, that hurts, but your brain is telling you this ain't right. So he definitely can be hurt. But he's also most dangerous when he's hurt, which is where Zerafa has to be really careful. If he hurts him like he did Mikey Dolman and goes in for the finish, he could walk into something big himself. So I'm just not quite sure if you get Nikita hurt, you almost want to be a little bit cautious. Stay on the attack, but don't just throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Try and make him miss and then make him pay to remove that risk factor if you're getting caught with something wild back. Again, Nikita has a beautiful jab to the body. He's got a great straight left hand. He can box and move well from the outside. My issue with Nikita is that once he gets on the inside, he kind of gets flat-footed and just relies on a bit of lateral movement to slip punches. And like a pendulum, the head's going to come back up that way. So if you can time them coming back up on the swing, you can land a nice right hand there.
Yeah, definitely. Mate, I noted down that Nikita 90% of the time moves to his left as well, which was, yeah, like you said, it is a bit strange for a southpaw. They normally don't do that. Like, I totally understand that the train of thought that, well, if you're a southpaw, you need to move to your left to open up your left hand, but you're also walking into the right hand, and he does it all the time. Like Dylan Biggs took perfect advantage of that, even though I think he had a broken left hand in that fight, so he only could throw the right hand. But also, too, Nikita does dip down to his left. He doesn't crouch, he dips. And I went back and watched some of the Zerafa and Jeff Horn fights because I couldn't quite remember. And Jeff, weirdly unorthodoxly for an orthodox fighter, he dips to his left too. And in that first fight, and again, I don't know if this Zerafa saw it in the fight or it was Sam LaBruna or someone in that stable and, who devised the game plan. And Zerafa has always shown a great ability to follow a game plan when there is one. And you pointed it out during the first round. We were watching that fight live in Bendigo. Horn Zerafa won, and you went, "Oh, the right uppercut's coming." And sure, in the second round, what did he drop him with? The right uppercut, and then he hit him with another one off the ropes too. When Jeff was dipping down as well. So I'm like, well, if Nikita is always moving to his left, he always dips to his left. Zerafa's already shown that he can take advantage of that particular body movement with the right uppercut. It should be muscle memory at this point. So I'm in total agreement with you there, mate, 100%. But again, I go back to, we don't know a lot about his training team. Like, is there a game plan? Because it kind of does, and I don't mean this as a criticism, and I could be totally in the wrong. I don't know. I haven't heard Michael talk about it or describe to us what his training setup is. Like, is he sort of just relying on his experience at this point? And jumping in the ring and going, man, I've fought all over the world. I've been there and done it. I'll figure it out as we go. I don't know. I think he performs better when there is a consistent, maybe not obvious game plan, but at least, we can identify early, he's doing this, he's avoiding that, he's trying to set this up. and that's when Michael sort of flourishes. He always, throughout his career, and I believe this fight will be no different, he always finds holes in guys that prioritize offense over defense.
Yep.
He's always had the ability to be able to do that. And Nikita, he certainly prioritizes offense over defense. The question for me is, what has the preparation been like? And obviously, being, a writer in the game for a hell of a long time and longer than I've even been watching this sport, fighters don't like to tell you about their preparation, or they don't like to be honest about their preparation. So it's a question that we will most likely never know the answer to. But for me, that's the biggest question that I have regarding this fight.
Yeah, and look, I'm not entirely against a bloke working out his own game plan and things like that, but you certainly need the voices in the corner to reinforce what that game plan is when the going gets tough. Not just people in there giving you water and shouting at you to, keep your hands up and your ass off the canvas sort of thing. But you need it to be reinforced here in the corner there. I certainly think that Zerafa can come up with a perfectly good game plan to beat Nikita. I'm sure he sees everything that we see and 100 things more. But in the heat of battle, coming back to the corner, that's when you need a voice you trust, just reinforcing little things that you've done right that perhaps you could have done differently or better, and keeping you on that path there to keep employing that the game plan that's been laid out for you. Again, without knowing who he's working with for this fight, I don't know. Maybe it's someone he's worked with extensively in the past and a voice he's familiar with. It could be someone new. I really don't know.
Yeah.
And probably there's listeners out there that are going to say, you're both dickheads, he's working with so-and-so, everyone knows that. But reality is,
let us know. Let us know. Yeah, I don't. I tried to find out too, but I mean, I just have no idea. I don't know. But mate, what sort of version of Nikita do you think is going to come in? I'm sort of expecting, I thought there was a marked improvement from the Biggs fight to the Cohen Mazudia fight, but there was the loose defensive hand positioning, the recklessness, the throwing from the hip, the leading with the chin, all that was still there. Now, the last fight with Ismaili, it didn't go long enough to really judge it, so I kind of threw that one out. So I'm still sort of judging or making my opinions off of the Mazudia fight, which I'm not expecting to see much different. I'm expecting to see Nikita start faster, not having to sort of suck down, having that extra 3 pounds. I think that's going to be good for him. I don't necessarily think the power is going to increase. I think Zerafa's been in with bigger punches and it hasn't really worried him. So I'm not really expecting any difference there. But unfortunately, I am expecting the same sort of recklessness that Nikita's shown in the past. I'm expecting the hands to be loose. I'm expecting the chin to be forward. And I'm expecting that moving to the left, and I'm expecting that dip down. I feel like it's going to take a lot longer, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm expecting on fight night to see the same defensive flaws that we've seen in Nikita. And I'm kind of getting close to my prediction, but I'm expecting Zerafa to be in a position to be able to take advantage of those. But how do you see, I asked you a question, then I railroaded you with my own answer, mate. But what are you expecting to see out of Nikita in a couple of nights' time?
Zero changes.
Yeah.
I think when boxers get away with fundamental flaws but are still winning, that it doesn't tend to be something they spend a lot of time working on improving it, at least not at a massive level. Maybe a couple of little tweaks, and then again in the heat of battle they return to what's familiar to them. So I really don't see any great difference there. I don't see any massive power increase with those extra 3 pounds for Nikita either. I just think we see pretty much the same version of him. I really, a little bit unlike Tim, who I think benefited from boxing away from the bright lights. We saw him improve fight by fight by fight. And I think not having that spotlight on him probably allowed him to do that a lot more. Whereas Nikita's kind of been, whether he was thrust forward or stepped forward, whatever you want to say, he's been performing under the bright lights since pretty much day dot. And once you're sort of on TV regularly, your brand's already sort of set. People aren't tuning in to see Nikita Tszyu slip and roll and get up on his toes and dance around the ring like Ali. That's not what they're tuning in for. And
we are.
Well, yeah, of course.
We are.
But
people watching and listening to this are. But the people at the pub aren't.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think once you're out there under the bright lights, people are already saying, this is what this guy is. And that's why we're tuning in to watch him. So even as a boxer, you're probably a little bit reluctant to change too much if things are still working and you're making good money and you're on TV and everyone knows you in the streets, that sort of thing. So I do often wonder if fighting under the bright lights has held back his career development, his skill development. Sorry, not career development, skill development. But I'm not saying he hasn't improved. He's just got better at the same things he always does. Yes, if that makes sense. He just hasn't added any more tools to his toolkit, any more wrinkles to his game. So I really don't think we see much different from Nikita on this weekend. But again, that's been good enough for him to get the job done. So I guess if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go on the record with a prediction, mate. You don't have to. Have you got one?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you want to go first or you want me to go?
Either or, mate. Now I'm going to put you on the spot now. Off you go, son.
Okay, no, that's fine. So the more I thought about this fight the last couple of weeks, the harder it got for me to pick a winner. So in the last few days, I've really just had to simplify everything, and basically my thought process has stayed the same from sort of what I was outlining before. And I think you just put it perfectly, and I didn't verbalize it that way. You did, which I think is the great way to put it, that Nikita's improved, but he was improving on things that he already did well, that he was already having success with. Those defensive holes are still there. And for me, I said it before, but Zerafa has always found success on guys that prioritize offense over defense. Nikita prioritizes offense over defense. He's reckless. I don't think Zerafa is going to get old overnight. I think the last couple of years have freshened him up, if anything. I think we're going to get a really good version of him. There's still a question mark over the preparation and the training and the game plan and all that type of thing, but those answers will reveal themselves on fight night. So all that being said, I'm going a TKO ref stoppage. Michael Zerafa is going to stop Nikita Tszyu on Friday night. What about you, mate?
What round, mate?
Oh, did I not say the round? The 7th, sorry.
Jesus, mate. Stealing my shine, buddy.
Oh, no way. What do you got?
I was going to say Zerafa by stoppage anytime after the 7th. Again, after watching back a whole bunch of Tszyu's fights, and when you see him get rocked in a fight or you see him get dropped in a fight and you kind of go, oh, yeah, but he won. And then you watch those fights back to back to back to back and you go, oh, he's down again. Oh, he's doing this again. So on top of the defensive flaws, he's getting wobbled and dropped. And it's hard for me to see a scenario where Zerafa does that. Sorry, it's hard for me to see a scenario where Zerafa doesn't do that. And then it's hard for me to see a scenario where Zerafa does do that and doesn't finish the fight.
Yeah.
As I said, the only way to me is Zerafa getting reckless, thinking, oh, I dropped this guy heavily and he's got up, he's wobbly, and just gets a bit reckless and gets dropped with a silly punch during an exchange. I'm quite bullish about Zerafa on this fight now, and this is a fight that I saw as a 50-50 on paper when it got made. But the more I've sort of gone through the pros and cons and look back through these fights, I'm quite bullish on Zerafa on this one, to be honest.
Yeah, mate, that's how we do it on the KnuckleDown. That's how we do it. That's KnuckleDown style. But yeah, and it is also important to note that Nikita's ability to recuperate during rounds is unbelievable. Like, he was out on his, well, I thought he was out on his feet on the way to getting stopped against Dylan Biggs, and then he just got up, got hit with the same right hands, if not better, harder right hands, and just bounced off his chin like nothing even happened, And he
gets up square like this, like...
Yeah.
And fights his way out of trouble somehow.
Oh, mate, it's unbelievable. His powers of recuperation are ridiculous. So, I'm pretty much in total agreement with you, mate. And we should tell everyone too. We never tell each other what we're going to say. But most of the time, we sort of end up in a similar position. So, but the other caveat I have to say is every single time I've picked against a Tszyu, I've been wrong. So I've got a pretty big, and I think I've picked against Tim maybe 3 or 4 times, I think. And I picked Dylan Biggs to beat Nikita. So they've proven me wrong. And then Tim's losses, I picked him to win. So I don't really have a good read on him. History would suggest. But so just finally, mate, before we move on to the rest of the card, are you excited for this fight?
Yeah, I am. For a domestic fight, this is honestly about as good a domestic fight as you can get. Not just because of the profile of the bout and how much no limit of pushing it to the general, the broader general sporting public. If this had no promotion, I'd still be excited about the fight. Even though I'm leaning quite heavily towards Zerafa now, it's still one of those matchups that I find very compelling. I'd probably put it a 70-30 proposition in Zerafa's favour now, as opposed to sort of 50-50 when it was announced. But a competitive 70-30, I think there'll be a lot of interesting moments in the fight. And again, please don't think I'm writing Nikita off. I'm not. I'm just leaning towards Zerafa and just a few of those little things that I think that he's just got a little bit more going in his favour there. So I'm super excited for it, and I think they've backed it up with a really solid undercard.
Yeah, and we'll get to Liam Paro later. Unfortunately, Paddy Donovan pulled out, and Liam's now off the card. If Liam had stayed on the card, geez, that was looking like one hell of a solid afternoon or evening of boxing, I should say. But we'll get to Liam after we break down the rest of this card, mate. But so I've got the official running order, which is a little unorthodox, that got released yesterday or the day before. So in the co-main event, we've got Dempsey McKean back in Australia in a... Is it a 6 or an 8? I think it's an 8-round heavyweight fight. Yeah, sorry, I need my glasses. I can't read the thing. Against Tszyu Tszyu. So, Tone Dempsey's back. He got signed with Matchroom, had a few fights over against some really credible high-profile guys like the future of the division, Moses Atoma. It didn't go his way.
And Hrgovic as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He might have got thrown to the wolves a little bit, but I think he really wanted to test himself as well. So, yep.
Yeah, no, 100%. He didn't die wondering, and who's to say he can't get back to that level, But I think coming home and fighting Tszyu with all due respect, a domestic guy who, right in the mix for the Australian title, I think it's the perfect move.
Yeah.
I'm all for when guys step up the ladder. I wish them all the best. If they get hit down a couple of pegs, well, you got to work your way back up, and it seems to be what Dempsey's trying to do here. So, and it's a fantastic opportunity for Tszyu. I really like this fight, and there's another heavyweight fight which is almost like a 4-man tournament for the Australian title. You could sort of bracket it as, I hope, behind the scene, or maybe publicly they've even said that as well. I'm not sure, but Dempsey and Tszyu, mate. Are you looking forward to it? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I've got to go with my boy, the Southpaw.
Of course. Never in doubt.
But no, that's a good matchup for Dempsey, and a good one on a, to sort of raise his profile domestically, which he probably hasn't been in the position to do previously. So I think a lot of people, certainly casual boxing fans or semi-casual boxing fans, will be probably seeing him for the first time. I think it's a good local level matchup to help him try and rebuild, and I think he should get the win here. But I'm quite looking forward to that one. Dempsey's a good mover for a proper big fella, and not a big puncher, but a pretty handy technician. And I think he's quite a pleasure to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, no, mate, I'm looking forward to it. And Underneath that, we got a rugby fight. I never heard of either guy. I couldn't care less. I'm skipping straight over it. So the fight underneath that for the Australian heavyweight title, Stefan Ivic defending his title against Liam Taliva'a. Guys who have sort of Taliva'a righted the wrong with Brandon Gratch in spectacular fashion. Stefan Ivic has been brought along really nicely, coming off the back of that defense in that war with Tozi Vuziutsu, undefeated at 7-0. As I mentioned, this is almost like a little four-man bracket. I would like to see the winners of these two fights, individual fights, fight each other, and I would also like to see the losers fight each other. You could really match these four guys up any way you wanted, and I'm interested in all possible outcomes. So, what have you made of Stefan Ivic's rise to the Australian title and defending it against Tozi not so long ago?
No, he's as you said, he's being moved along nicely there, and there's a lot to like about the kid. I like your idea of a mix and match sort of four-man tournament. I remember when Bob Mirovic and Cole Wilson and Nathan Briggs and there was just a handful of guys that just kept swapping over the Australian heavyweight title, and none of them were going to go on to sort of world honours, but you just had this wonderful sort of kind of eternal round robin of these blokes fighting each other, and there was nothing wrong with it. People turned up to see it, and people love seeing these big boys fight. So I wouldn't mind seeing something like that keep rolling through.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's other guys throw into the mix as well. Oh, the flea turkey. The flea turkey. It was only a matter of time. Tone loves his dog. It's a flea turkey. And it always annoys us when we're on the phone. But anyway, I'll let that one slide, Tone. But there's a strict warning on the flea turkey, all right?
Do you want me to put it down? I'll go Christy name on it.
Oh, well. I'll text you my real feelings later. I'm pro animal life, but I'll text you my real feelings later. But, mate, we'll move on. And in a kind of an odd card placement, going to be the second fight in on a 6-fight main card. Liam Wilson's back against Filipino Rodex Piala. Have you had a bit of a look at Piala, mate? I've watched his last fight the other day. Have you got any thoughts on this matchup in particular?
I could only find a bit of, granted, I didn't dig too deep, but I could only find some fairly rough sort of footage, some cell phone footage from ringside and things like that. I saw one piece of footage and he looked all right. Then I saw another one and he looked really wild and rough. So I really don't have too much of a line on him, Zach. How about yourself? What did you see from his last fight?
Yeah, so I saw his last fight. It was a 12-rounder. I thought he looked pretty tidy, like a really good operator, nice fundamentals. There were no glaring weaknesses that I could sort of see, but unfortunately, as his record suggests, 12-1 with one stoppage, he just can't punch. Now, that could play two ways for Liam. We could think that's great because he's seemingly not under much danger, but we also thought David Popo couldn't punch either, and he bloody closed Liam Paro's eye. So that can bode well for Liam, and I thought Liam did such a better job in his last fight, and forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman's name that he fought, stopped him in the 4th round up at the Pat Rafter Arena. Am I going to remember his name? No, it's gone. I've Snapchatted it. But he did such a better job that fight blending the aggression and the boxing.
Yep.
Even though we didn't get a long sample size in terms of rounds and Liam wasn't under a ton of pressure, although the bloke was bloody willing and throwing some bombs, it was a much better... I thought it was the first time I'd seen some... Liam evolving for so much of his career, even though it's been so short. We've just seen just this outright aggression, and I think he would have more stoppages on his record if he boxed first more often. And I thought he found a better blend of that in his last fight. Now, I'm really just hoping that carries on to this fight and he doesn't get sort of overzealous knowing that Piala may on paper be a light puncher, and that sort of turns the aggression up and he's like, cool, he can't hurt me, I'm going to blast this guy out of there. I would still like to see that same evolution and that same commitment to boxing first, even with a guy that on paper doesn't particularly seem to be that dangerous. So that's the biggest question mark for me in that one. But yeah, sorry, Tony.
But here's the thing, just because the guy can't punch doesn't mean he I think we all think instinctively, if a guy can punch, he's got a really good chin. If a guy can't punch, he must have a weak chin. Now, if you get reckless against a guy who can't punch, thinking, well, I can walk through his shots and just nail him and get reckless, well, we might have a good chin and can still outbox you because you're being aggressive now. So it can actually play against you there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's human nature to equate power with being, having a good set of whiskers on you. But yeah, we all know Liam at his best is a boxer first, a puncher later. He can get a bit of white line fever, and against a guy who can't punch, maybe gets a bit bored in there and thinks, "Oh, I'm just going to put it on him and hit the showers," and then ends up potentially in a fight where he looks less than what his skill set is. And I think Liam at his best is fantastic to watch. Just fundamentally sound, boxes well, sets up those nice little shots, bang, 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 hurts his bloke, and good night. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he's in that weird redevelopment stage where you're really not sure how much he can develop and how much he's sort of treading water, just waiting for another opportunity. And again, Liam knows what he should be doing. It's just in the heat of battle that he tends to often deviate from what you should be doing to what your instinct is. And that, I think, is always going to be something that has to be managed on not just a fight-by-fight basis, but a round-by-round, minute-by-minute basis in the corner and with his team there. Yeah,
like Rodas Piala sort of, I draw kind of similarities a little bit to, we spoke about him earlier, Basir A. Like when I watched Basir A little bit, I'd never heard of him beforehand, and I was like, damn, this guy can fight, a good fundamentals. Like, he's not a bad operator at all. Like Rodas Piala, at least from what I saw, I didn't see anything where he looked wild. I was like, man, this guy, he's good. Like, I'm not saying he's a top 10 fighter in the world, but he's certainly by no means like a bad fighter. This isn't a bad fight or a bad matchup or anything like that, but obviously I'm just super biased towards the Aussies, and I'm always going to be focusing on the Australian perspective, and I'll never apologise for it either. I'm a biased Aussie. So, yeah, I'm actually quite looking forward to this fight. Again, the biggest question mark for me is how Liam approaches it, and I'm just hoping it's similar to the gentleman who we fought last time, and no, it's gone. Snapchat, that's the way it works. It's out of my brain forever. But we'll move on, Tone. So opening up the main card of the pay-per-view, Raheem Mundine, son of Anthony, is taking on Jeffrey Matthews. Now, it says here that Raheem Mundine is 2-0. I have absolutely no memory of seeing either of his two fights. I didn't even know he was a pro. Have you seen him in action before, mate?
No. Or, in fairness, not that I recall.
Yeah.
But I figure I'd recall because of the surname, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I've really got nothing to add here. Jeffrey Matthews is 0-1. I've never seen him fight. So, it says it's a 4-round middleweight fight. I mean, Raheem Mundine may be a fantastic prospect. I don't know, but it's pretty clearly he's here because his last name is Mundine for the time being, which there's nothing wrong with. We'll see how his career progresses, excuse me. Now we move on to the prelims, which is going to be free on Fox and KO. There's a 4-fight card. So the main event, quote unquote, of the prelim portion is a 6-round super middleweight fight between Max Reeves and Sonny Abid. Max Reeves is back, mate. I actually reckon if I was a manager, like of a pro fighter, I would prefer my guy fight on the free Fox Sports KO prelims than fight the first or second fight on the pay-per-view. I reckon you're going to get more eyeballs on you. I reckon it would relate to better sponsorship opportunities. So I think this is a fantastic position for Max Reeves. Mate, Sonny Abid's back from his sort of sojourn back in France, I believe it was, seemingly based back in Australia now. What do you make of the matchup, mate? You fired up?
Yeah, look, I really like Max Reeves, and I tend to agree with you too. I think I'd rather be the headline act on the free undercard than the opening act on the pay-per-view undercard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, it's another solid matchup, and I do quite like the way that they're doing this now with the little teaser undercard fights, and if they're done right like this, and there's good matchups, and they're not just random 4-rounders. That you've got to have something there to, again, a free prelim main event, if you want to call it that. That's a solid matchup. That you're actually leading towards something, not just saying here's 3 or 4-rounders between people you never heard of or of limited skill or still ranked novices. So I think this is a pretty good lead into the show, because then certainly, well, not just for your casuals, but even people who are going, I won't buy the show, suddenly they've watched a few and you get a good fight headlining the prelim card, and suddenly you're starting to think, maybe I can stretch the budget a little bit further and keep the night of boxing going.
Let's keep this party rolling. Yeah, absolutely, mate. And a bloke back, I forgot all about this guy, Billy Polkinghorne. I don't believe he fought at all in 2025. He's back against a guy called Jomar Palawan, who's 7-1. So it's great to see Billy Polkinghorne back. Now, interestingly, on this graphic that No Limit put out, it says it's either a 6 or 8. I don't know if that's a 6 or an 8. Lightweight fight. So Billy Polkinghorne going down in weight. Didn't look like he had a lot of weight to lose at 140, so that'll be interesting to see. Blake Wells, oh, sorry, mate, were you going to say something?
No, and certainly coming down in weight after such a long layoff too. That's a...
Yeah, no, interesting. Blake Wells is back, mate, after his upset win over Andrei Mikhailovich a couple of months ago, fighting a guy who... The last time I heard from him, I think, was 2016 or 17 when he fought Jade Mitchell at the Melbourne Pavilion.
Correct.
Inoue Yelixiati. He's back on Australian soil fighting Blake Wells, mate.
And I'm going off memory here. I'm pretty sure Jade told me that that Yelixiati was the hardest puncher he faced. I could be wrong on that, but I've got a memory of him telling me that.
I always thought it was Aaron Lay, who he talked about as being a huge puncher.
Well, I certainly know he's told me that Yelixiati was one of the biggest punchers he faced. Yeah.
Damn, okay, I didn't know that. I can barely remember the fight. I don't even know if I've seen that fight. It was years ago. But yeah,
either I was ringside for it, or I bought it on pay-per-view. I'm more inclined to think I watched it from ringside before moving out to the country.
Yeah, it would have been Epicenter back in the day, wouldn't it?
Or what was the other one? Like live, it had the green and gold logo.
Yeah,
live combat sports. Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, Wildfighter's still on that, but I don't think Epicenter's around any. Anyway, whatever. Who cares? Yep. No one cares about that. And opening up the show, we spoke about random 4-rounders before. Maybe this fits the bill. I'm not sure. A 4-round super welterweight fight between two debutants, Jack Jarvid and Zefi Vaotua. I haven't heard of either of these guys. I'm not sure if they were prominent amateurs. I have no idea, but I'll be tuning in from the first fight and looking forward to finding out.
Absolutely. And again, for people who either aren't financial enough or aren't inclined to buy the full pay-per-view, I'd recommend they at least tune in for the free prelims and show their support that way, because there's still some very solid fights on the free portion of the card.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Absolutely. And now we mentioned that Liam Paro was supposed to be on the card as the co-main fighting Paddy Donovan, who was just recently off his 12-round decision loss against Lewis Crocker for the IBF welterweight title. It was listed as an official IBF eliminator for the world title. I believe it was reported that Paddy Donovan about 3 or 2 weeks ago got the flu and pulled out. Now, recently there's been, and this is the reason I bring it up, Tony, because you'll be able to explain it to me way better than I can. I get lost in all the details. I think the IBF have made Liam mandatory now. Can you make any sense for me and the people like me who find all this stuff difficult to understand what exactly is the current status with Liam at the moment?
Again, I'm no legal scholar, so I'll take it under advisement.
Come on, mate.
But obviously Donovan and Paro were supposed to fight an eliminator. The winner was supposed to fight Lewis Crocker. Lewis Crocker, in the meantime, had applied to the IBF to get an exemption to face someone in the interim whose name escapes me, which kind of makes sense because obviously the winner out of this fight, might take a while for for the mandatory defence to be set up. With Donovan pulling out of the fight, the IBF, pursuant to their rules, so God bless them, sanctioning bodies get shit canned for following their rules, and they get shit canned for not following their rules. If a sanctioning body stops a big fight, when I say a big fight, two names fighting each other, they're arseholes, despite them following their own rules. And then if they throw the rules out the window and to accommodate someone else for whatever reason, people shit on them too. So they're in a lose-lose situation. But with Donovan pulling out of the fight, they replied to Crocker's team and citing their own rules, saying we can't allow you to take a mandatory. I presume because Donovan was unable to do the eliminator, then Liam becomes the next highest available. So it'll be Crocker, Paro next.
Oh, mate, and what do you think the chance? So Crocker's with Matchroom, isn't he?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he is, but I'm.
Yeah, he's from Belfast, so I'm pretty sure. I know Paddy Donovan's with Matchroom, so he's either with Matchroom or Queensbury. Two sort of powerhouse promoters. Liam now being with No Limit. Is this going to be like a purse bid situation?
Well, they've got 60 days to negotiate.
Okay,
and then, failing that, it goes to purse bids. I believe that would be the process there. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're back after a little technical difficulty, but it's the internet, it's podcasting, that's how we roll. So, mate, I think what I was trying to tee you up for was asking you, I think Lewis Crocker is with one of the big British promoters, either Matchroom or Queensbury, whatever it may be. He is the champion. Is there a realistic chance you reckon No Limit could snag this fight with Liam and Lewis Crocker and put it in Australia? Like, what a percentage would you put that possibility at?
I'd say reasonably low. I don't think Crocker's going to want to travel down under for his for a title defence, to be honest. And realistically, who can blame him? I don't know what sort of crowd he draws over there or what his popularity is over there, but you'd have to imagine with the population alone over there and so many boxing fans that they'd be able to raise enough coin to make Liam travel over there. Otherwise, it's a massive investment for No Limit to drag Crocker over here. Again, they've got 60 days to negotiate that before things go to purse bid, and I'd suggest that and Liam's not afraid to fight on the road. He's fought in Puerto Rico, so it's not an issue. I think he'd take the fight anywhere, and obviously you prefer it in your backyard, but it's got to make financial sense for his own promoter too. They can't just throw big dollars at it and say, well, we'll use it as a loss leader and cross our fingers and hope Liam wins. There's always a line in the sand where you say, okay, is this a smart investment or are we just buying a fight that realistically may not go in our favour? But certainly the home ground advantage it benefits both fighters. And I think Crocker with the title will have a bit more pull in his own country and a bit more more sponsors, bigger crowds, people that perhaps turned up to see him before are going to bring along 10 friends now. So I think there's going to be a lot more pull there to from his end to have the fight back there in his home country.
Yeah, no, that seems more than plausible, mate. But what do you make of the matchup itself? I mean, if they've got 60 days to negotiate and the IBF's not letting Crocker take another fight, seems a fait accompli that this fight's going to be on. So now we can move straight towards sort of the style clash. How do you like Liam's chances up against Lewis Crocker?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I like Crocker. I think he's fundamentally sound and a solid operator, but I just tend to, again, biased Aussie maybe, But I just think Liam's got that little bit, I shouldn't say X factor, but just that little bit more variety, that little bit more ring IQ, perhaps. I don't know what. I just think he has a slight edge in that sort of fight. So certainly on neutral ground. So that's where the home ground advantage is going to be very important for either fighter.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, I think it came out only a couple of days ago, or maybe a week ago or so, that Lewis Crocker has left his longtime trainer. So presumably this fight with Liam, shall it go ahead like we assume it to, that it will, it'll be his first fight with a new team. So, I mean, that can only sort of potentially work in Liam's favour too. They reckon it takes sort of 2, 3, 4 fights to really get comfortable with a team, a couple of different training camps, a couple of times cutting weight, a couple of times sitting on the stool in between rounds to get fully comfortable and know each other's strengths and weaknesses as a team. So, I would see that as a slight positive for Liam if it were to be true too, for sure. But what did you make of Liam's most recent performance with David Papo?
I didn't know what to make of Papo coming out because I really hadn't seen much of him. Had you seen much of David Papo coming out?
I'd never even heard of him.
I literally, if I'd seen anything of him, it was maybe highlights and knowing that he had a name in the rankings. That was about it. I thought Liam looked good. I thought he looked nice and composed, nice and tidy. I thought it was a sort of hit out he needed in a new weight class just to kind of get his feet wet a little bit. Your thoughts?
Don't think it was anywhere near the best Liam's capable of, for sure, with respect to Papo. But and credit to Papo for taking advantage of these flaws. But I'd never seen Liam carry his right hand so low. I don't know if that was a tactical thing. I have all the respect in the world for Alfie DiCarlo and their team. I don't know if that was a deliberate tactic. I'm not sure. If it was, it got taken advantage of to Papo's favour for sure. I didn't understand it. And when, like Liam got rocked with that huge left hand, from another southpaw, it looked to me like he didn't. Like, even southpaws don't like fighting southpaws. Like, Liam kept moving into the left hand all night. And his right eye was damaged, and he kept moving into the damaged eye to keep getting hit by the left hand. Like, he couldn't move the other way. He was so accustomed to, and maybe that's because he got his bell rung and you just revert back to sort of muscle memory. I get it. But, I thought he, like you pointed out earlier about Nikita, he doesn't mix up the movement. You don't want to go one way all the time. I thought Liam was just going towards the left hand way too much. The right hand was low. His right eye was damaged. If you're dropping your hand from where the damage is, you can't tell me you're not increasing the possibility that the target gets hit and damaged further. There was one exchange. The second time he got rocked in the fourth round, I think he went to parry the jab, missed, and threw a right hook, and Papo threw the straight left, and the straight punch always gets there quicker than the hook, and just rung his bell huge. And then there was also another time where Liam was... they were in a clinch, and he exited the clinch with his right hand down, and Papo's gone, oh, hell yeah, man. Thanks for the opening. Cracked him again with the left. I just thought it was really the most defensively irresponsible I'd ever seen Liam, and I never thought I would say that about him. But we sort of saw it with that fight against Yomar Alamo, where in the first round he got dropped, and he uncharacteristically just like streamed across the ring, trying to close the distance from way too far out, and ran onto a shot and got hit. And he seemed to they made the mistake, they went to work, and then they corrected it in the preceding fights. And I don't know what this right hand, this low right hand positioning was, and it's kind of weird. Like, you see guys all the time, like they get to where they get to, whatever that ceiling may be. Let's say it's world title level. They get to that level by following the basics. Then they win a world title, and then they want to start breaking all the rules. I was like, dance with the girl you came with. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got there because you were nice and tight and not leaving holes, and now you want to do the Floyd and the shoulder roll and all that. And I'm not saying Liam's guilty of that, but it is just a theme that we see quite commonly in a lot of fighters that get to that level. So I'm hoping this was just a little speed hump for Liam. But yeah, even early in the first round, I was like, I don't like this. And Liam's not a big puncher. He wasn't a big puncher at 140. He's certainly not a big puncher at 147. So it's box first. Box first, try and hurt him later. Box, 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 keep yourself safe. At world level at 147, I think Liam's going 12 rounds the vast majority of the time, if not every time. So if you're going to be in the ring for 36 minutes, limit those holes,
So hang on a minute. Are you calling him the 147-pound version of Shakur Stevenson?
Wow, that would be one hell of a compliment. And we'll get on to Shakur later. But so I was worried about that performance from Liam. Again, hopefully it's a speed hump, course correction. I'm sure with respect to David Papo, he'll be far more motivated to fight for a world title, in a second weight class and become a 2-weight world champion. So we're more likely to see him cross the T's and dot the I's there. And I'm sure Alfie DiCarlo will be all over it for sure. And many, many other things that my boxing IQ, quote unquote, is not capable of seeing. I'm sure he's seen and already working on the remedies for those. But in terms of the matchup, I like it. Lewis Crocker showed a great ability to fight to a game plan in that second fight. I can't really remember the first fight, but I remember him being much more reckless in that one with Paddy Donovan. So that showed a great attribute of Crocker to go, okay, well, what can I do better? How can I change it up? How can I find success? It wasn't like a barn burner of a fight, the rematch with Paddy Donovan. Outside of the 2 knockdowns, it was quite dull, but Crocker dulled it down on purpose, fought on his terms, didn't overcommit. I thought that showed a great ability to follow the game plan, and which makes getting rid of the trainer even a little bit more puzzling when they just, got to the ultimate crescendo. But I mean, I think that works for Liam, so I'm not personally too worried about it. But I think Crocker's a big dude at the weight. He's pretty tough. I see it going 12 rounds, and I think if Liam boxes first and doesn't get carried away and limits those openings, I think he can get it done on points for sure, either at home or overseas. I think they're most likely be in Belfast, like you mentioned, so hopefully Liam can get the win and get one back in that Windsor Park for who fought Carl Frampton?
Luke Jackson,
that's right. God, I'm forgetting names.
Tasmania's finest.
Yes, absolutely. Total warrior, Luke Jackson. So hopefully Liam Paro can even the ledger for us Aussies over in Windsor Park in the next coming months. We will keep our eyes peeled. But, mate, we'll move on and we'll just turn back the clock just slightly because I just want to get your thoughts. Just before New Year's Eve, we had Naoya Inoue defending his undisputed super bantamweight world title with a 12-round unanimous decision over David Picasso. And on the undercard, seemingly setting up a super fight in May, which we can get into, Junto Nakatani made his 122-pound debut, with a unanimous decision win, should it have been, we'll talk about it, over Sebastian Hernandez-Reyes. Mate, we'll start with Inoue because he was the much more flawless operator in the ring that night in his particular matchup. What did you make of Inoue? And did Picasso sort of fight to the level you thought he was capable of, or did he exceed your expectations? What did you think?
I think Picasso did well. Honestly, if you're lasting the distance with Inoue, you're doing better than expected, period. No matter where the bar's set, right? He didn't have a lot of success in there, but he had enough. And he didn't run around the ring. He fought the best version that he could fight. I probably thought Inoue was going to get him out of there. Whether that's because Picasso was better than I anticipated. I knew he was a very solid fighter, or Inoue said he was a bit burned out after the fight, things like that. But I thought Picasso did as well, if not better than can be expected against the monster there. So no harm, no foul. And once Inoue moves up in weight, there's going to be a whole bunch of hungry contenders ready to go, and Picasso's going to be right up there in the top 1, 2, 3 in that division, ready to go. Inoue himself said he obviously sets the bar pretty high for himself. He was obviously hoping for a knockout and was disappointed with his performance. But I thought his performance was, by mere mortal standards, was more than fine. It was absolutely fantastic. The fact he didn't get the stoppage, to me, is neither here nor there. I thought he was very dominant and showed a good kit of punches and everything else. Maybe he needs after 4 fights in a year, probably needs a bit of a rest before going around again, and mental as much as physical. And he certainly earned that. I didn't. It probably wasn't the most explosive version of Inoue we've ever seen, but it was still ultra dominant. And Picasso stood with him and didn't run and hide. Gave a really solid account of himself, and he'll come back again.
And what did you make of Nakatani and Hernandez Reyes?
That was a cracker of a fight. That we're so used to seeing Nakas being so dominant, and when he couldn't put a dent in Hernandez and decided to kind of sit in the pocket and trade, well, didn't all go his way.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, it made for a great fight for the fans. He's probably still looking out of the pirate eye right now, but and Hernandez is tough as fuck. So I'm not saying it was Nakatani on a bad night, because he had a real tough man in front of him, but it made for a great fight for the fans. And then the interesting question out of this is, and I'm sure people will go, well, Inoue will dominate Nakatani now if they fight, but that's not the way fights work. I mean, we've seen Inoue go right down to the wire with an ancient Donaire, getting his orbital busted and things like that, and then wipe out Donaire in 2 rounds in the rematch. So it makes for interesting conversations for a potential fight between Inoue and Nakatani, because people obviously swing towards a more dominant performer, but it's still a very, very close fight on paper when that happens.
Yeah, and shout out to Sebastian Reyes. My God, talk about just not taking no for an answer. Put his hands up, kept walking forward, put the pressure on, broke him down. I mean, is there a case he won that fight, in your opinion?
I think you can make a case for it, but did he? And I'm of the school of thought that no, he didn't.
Okay.
I'm not saying you can't make a case for him, but again, that's why they have 3 judges.
I've got to watch it back. I wasn't scoring the first time. I was just watching purely entertainment style. I've got to watch it back, because I've heard some people say that they reckon Reyes nicked it. Reyes did enough. So,
but the only okay, it's okay to say I thought he nicked it, but can you give him? Did he win 7 rounds clearly?
Well, that's the question. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you start talking swing rounds and you give him one way and someone else gives him the other. Well, he didn't definitively win the fight. You can win, again, Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao. Jeff Horn clearly won 7 rounds, so he won that fight. But a lot of the time people go, oh, but I gave those close rounds to this fighter. Well, that's fine, but what if someone else gave those close rounds to the other fighter? If you win 7 rounds definitively, you can get your head punched in for 5 rounds. But providing they're not 10-8 rounds, and you can win the other 7 rounds closely but clearly, you've won 7 rounds to 5. That's the way the scoring system works. That's not the momentum of the fight or whose style you like the most in the moment. It's
maths.
Straight maths.
All right, well, we will talk about that presumed fight coming up in May. Super fight, all Japanese super fight coming up in May a little later in the year. Mate, let's get to some... Oh, actually, sorry, one more to review. Oh, my God. Fight of the weekend. Leading contender for fight of the year. Subriel Matias was unable to defend his WBC 140-pound title against the challenger Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith knocks him out in the 5th round in an absolute barn burner. Mate, hit me with your thoughts. Were you on the edge of your seat the whole time or what?
No, I was very high on this fight coming in when it was first announced. And obviously front runner for fight of the year. We're not even 2 weeks in, so let's put that caveat on there. No, look, I really liked this fight when it was first announced. I'm a fan of both guys. I thought the matchup style-wise was really good. The closer the fight got, the more I started to think, maybe I'm expecting too much from Dalton Smith. He was just one of them kids who, when I've seen his last sort of 4, 5, 6 fights, whatever, I thought there's something about this kid that I kind of think he can go somewhere. And that's not me saying I'm some sort of boxing guru or anything, but I just like the way he was performing in the ring, the way he was improving fight by fight as his competition stepped up. And I liked his composure in the ring. You could see, you could literally see the amateur background oozing out of him in the pros, just having that command of space and distance, knowing how to pick his shots. Not a big volume puncher and certainly not a big combination puncher, but just very accurate and a lot of spatial awareness, knowing where he was physically, when to throw, what to throw, how to get in, how to get out. Obviously, this was a massive, massive step up in class for him, particularly fighting on the road in New York City at Madison Square Garden in front of a whole bunch of Puerto Ricans over there. Performed admirably. There was, I guess, after 2 rounds, there would have been a lot of British fight fans with their hearts in their mouths, thinking, "Okay, the fight's going inside now," and geez, how's our boy going to hold up here? But he weathered that storm, and he felt quite comfortable in there too, by the looks of it. He didn't feel that he might have got sucked into trading on the inside a little bit, but he obviously felt comfortable enough in there that he didn't feel the need to try and step back to the outside and kind of circle the ring there. So I thought he did brilliantly. I certainly think what we know about Matias is he's always been able to be hit. And with that style, no matter how good your chin is, and again, I'll go back to people thinking that, he's got a big punch, therefore he's got a good chin. I think what we often see is the people with the big punch also often neglect their defense because they think their punch is going to get him out of it. And sooner or later, and Matias is, 33 now himself? 32, 33. There were a lot of big shots on the chin. And just because they're not necessarily wobbling or showing the pain, it's like a pane of glass. Once the crack's there, it keeps getting bigger every time. And and that style, and again, we've seen it with Antonio Margarito as well. Heavy hands, great chin, and then once they start getting dropped, it's very much downhill from there. So take nothing away from Dalton Smith. Fought a fantastic fight. Was lucky not to get a point deducted for the clinching.
Oh yeah,
which I'm sure he would have copped sweet. And I was actually surprised with the amount of warnings. I thought I thought the ref, you can't just warn someone and not deduct a point. If you're going to warn them for it, you got to start deducting points.
He didn't even warn him though, did he? He just kept breaking it up.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there was a couple of warnings there. Maybe not formal warnings, but warnings in there in those interactions. But you know, if people don't pull you up, it's only illegal if you get caught, as they say. So if people aren't deducting points, why would you stop doing it? Of course you're going to keep doing it and smother him on the inside. The whole thing with Matias, as soon as he started pulling back and creating a bit of a gap and getting that mid-range room rather than that smothering room, because he needs to be at that mid-range. Just that little bit of space. In here is too close, but just that little bit of space when he's pulling out of that area there for those sort of short shots over the top are perfect for him. But he was shipping quite a bit of punishment there that I certainly don't think Raul Marquez was kind of quite savvy to, because right before Matias got knocked out, he was talking about how Dalton Smith was on his last legs, and I thought they were trading on even terms. Obviously, Matias is a heavier-handed fighter, but I'm also watching Matias's head get snapped back like a Pez dispenser. and it not kind of being noted on the commentary. But no, all props to Dalton Smith. I thought it was a really, really tough, rugged performance, and he has an exciting style. I liked him coming into this fight. I thought the closer the fight got, a little bit like the Zerafa Tszyu fight, I thought it was 50-50 on paper, and the closer it got, the more I fancied Dalton Smith's chances. And rep for the kid. I thought he did really well.
And that commentary team, and also included our mate and one of the best young broadcasters in the game, Corey Erdman. I couldn't be more of a fan of Corey. They kind of copped a lot of heat for that commentary. I mean, I sort of saw it very, very similar to how they saw it. And everyone's sort of having a go at Raul Marquez for, the final stages of that fight. And I was I was listening to the radio as well. So I could hear his commentary. I think he kind of just got I have to listen to it back, but I think people just kind of misinterpreted what he was referring to. Like, I thought the fresher guy at that point was definitely Matias. Like, the guy who was energy levels were depleted more was absolutely Dalton Smith. Even if he was trading on even terms and landing big shots, he certainly looked to the eye to be more affected by the shots that Matias was landing on him than Matias was affected by the shots that Smith was landing on him. So I had absolutely no problem with the commentary at all. And absolutely brilliant fight. My God, those two right hands, that second one in particular, Dalton Smith landed right on the point of the chin that wobbled Matias. He didn't go down, and Dalton Smith bloodied up, tired, hurt, probably got bells ringing in his head, his brain's swelling inside his skull, and he still had the IQ to go, all right, I've landed two straight ones, I'll throw one over the top now in the heat of battle. Perfect shot, loses balance, can't recover.
The way he landed those two right hands, and the way he went, I'll stand off for a second here and have a look at what I got. And it wasn't a long time. It sounds like a long time when you kind of watch it back in slow motion. But he didn't just rush in with that overhand. He went bang. It was only, again, very much a split second thing. But he didn't rush his work there, and he just had that little quick look and went, "This is a shot to finish the show."
That's exactly what I was going to say. So,
Sorry.
Exactly. You're right, mate. No, exactly, mate. So, fantastic performance by Dalton Smith. Can't wait to see what is coming up for him in the future. But, mate, let's just run through a couple of upcoming fights. On Sunday, the 25th of January, Australian time, free on DAZN if you are a DAZN subscriber. Raymond Murataya is fighting Andy Cruz for the IBF lightweight title, with also Israel Madrimov is back on the undercard following his recent couple of losses against a guy called Luis David Salazar, who's 20-1 with 7 knockouts. I had a look at his box rec. There wasn't a recognizable name on that record, which you would probably expect, but certainly interested to see how Israel Madrimov bounces back. But, mate, Raymond Murataya, Andy Cruz, it's Andy's 7th fight. Woo, are you excited? I'm pumped.
Oh, mate, absolutely. And here's the question, when we talk about kids being rushed into world title fights, you go, well, is he getting rushed too soon? And he is being moved very quickly, or is he one of those rare talents? I don't know. I'm excited to find out, because Muratella is no joke. So.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. I'm excited for it. I feel like Andy Cruz, he's 30, so he's actually older than Murataya. Obviously, much less pro experiences, but I'm no amateur connoisseur, but Andy Cruz is one of the best amateurs I've ever seen, for sure. I feel like the higher the level of opponent that he's in with, the better he will perform. So 30 years old, knowing how good he is, knowing his potential, I think this is the perfect timing. I like Andy Cruz to get it done too. I think he's going to blow our minds in a couple of weeks' time. But I'm such a fan and I'm biased too, but I'm expecting like something pretty special.
Yeah, look, you're probably right. I love these sort of matchups. I always like the more experienced bloke. I hate these young upstarts like yourself, Zach. It's just a personal bias there.
No, fair enough, mate. All right, mate. Let's move on. So this will finish it up, but there's a fair bit happening on this day. Sunday, February 1st, Australian time. So we've actually, well, I don't even know how to watch this fight. I don't even know if it is televised, but Xander Zayas is defending the WBO Super Welterweight title against Abbas Barao in Puerto Rico, I believe. I'm sure details of that will come out at some stage before the fight. As of right now, I don't know what they are, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Also on the same day, on DAZN, mate, free on DAZN if you are a subscriber, Bakram Murdazaliev's back. It's been a long time since he knocked out Tszyu, but he's back and he's fighting Josh Kelly in the UK. Man, this is a super intriguing world title fight. What did you make of it when it was first announced, mate, and have your thoughts changed as we get a little closer?
No, not really. No, I've always rated Josh Kelly at a European level, but I've really not thought that he's much higher than that. And I stand to be proven wrong, but I think it's a bridge too far for Kelly, even with the layoff for the Russian there. But yeah, it'll be an interesting enough fight, and not a bad first one back.
Yeah, mate, I really like this fight. Honestly, I haven't kept up with Josh Kelly too much since he's lost to David Evanesian a couple of years ago, but he's gone undefeated at 154 since then. Yeah, I just can't believe Bakram just cannot get a fight.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, he really is being treated like the boogeyman of that division. No one wants a bar of him. Where I got to be honest,
the upper tire of 154.
That is too high a compliment. But yeah, I just don't see him as the boogeyman. I mean, like, yeah, he absolutely throttled Tim, no doubt about it. But I thought Tim was his own worst enemy that night. If Tim fought like he did against Brian Mendoza, I think he can beat Bakram. I think Bakram's beatable. It was just a pretty horrific performance by Tim on the night. So I think we've kind of, I think a lot of people have kind of got a false read on Murdazaliev in terms of how dangerous he actually is. And maybe I'm just being super biased and looking at it with, boxing kangaroo colored glasses. But yeah, I think this is going to be a competitive fight. Like, is Bakram the type of guy that puts the type of pressure on that Evanesian does that wore down Josh Kelly? Not really. He's more of a boxer, Bakram. Sort of a boxer puncher, even though I don't think he's that much of a puncher. But could Josh Kelly sort of out-slick this guy for, portions of the fight for multiple rounds in a row and sort of make his way to a sort of competitive decision? For sure. Could Josh Kelly totally outclass this guy? I think it's possible. I thought Tim could outclass him. So the questions for me is, I think I know exactly what Murdazaliev we're going to get, but yeah, more to your point that you made, Josh Kelly, a European level guy, is he world level? If he's world level, I think he has the skills and the footwork and the maneuverability to get it done, and the speed and those reflexes. But
this is his chance to show that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the ultimate test, and he's either going to be up to it or he's not, and he's going to get broken down again. I don't think it's going to be a boring fight one way or the other, but it's one that I think Josh Kelly's got to be pretty perfect for 36 minutes to get it done. Bakram only needs a couple, and maybe he is the puncher that I'm not 100% convinced that he is, but I'm just glad to see him finally get back in the ring and have a fight.
Bloody oath.
Also, that same day on DAZN pay-per-view, the big one, we've got Teofimo Lopez defending his WBO super lightweight title against Shakur Stevenson, moving up to his fourth weight class. I'll just quickly go through the undercard as well, mate, but we'll start at the main event. So Carlos Adames is defending his WBC middleweight title against Austin Ammo Williams. Bruce Shushu Carrington's fighting Carlos Castro for the vacant WBC featherweight title. And Keyshawn Davis is back in an interesting fight against Jermaine Ortiz. But we'll start at the top, mate. Teofimo Shakur. Massive hype. Everyone's looking forward to it. I'm not so sure it's going to deliver in the ring in terms of, fight of the year entertainment style. I'm still looking forward to seeing what happens. How excited are you for this matchup?
I think you mean Teofimo Lopez versus America's Liam Paro.
Yes. Sorry, I'll edit that. I'll edit that in later. Exactly.
No, look, again, this fight, be honest, not expecting fireworks. That's not all on Shakur. Teofimo blows hot and cold at the best of times, can turn in not just a good performance, a bad performance, but one good one out of three. When I say good one, like one entertaining one out of three. It could be a real snooze fest. And Teofimo at his best is when he's coming forward and being physical. And making the fight. I loved him coming up. I loved his explosive style, his athleticism, his aggression, his obviously quality skill set from defence to offence, but always offensive minded, but defensively sound. And then we've seen him just snooze through fights where it's like a sparring session. And I certainly, if he's in that mindset with Shakur and it's starting to get a bit hard or a bit frustrating, well, he gets 121, 108, and that's just the way it goes. Look, I probably fancy Shakur, even though he's moving up in weight. He's when I say he is the naturally smaller bloke, just in body mass and things like that. I think his skills will translate fine to the higher weight class, and I don't think Teofimo has the mongrel in him he used to have when he was a contender to really take it to Shakur. I think Shakur will probably frustrate the hell out of him, and if Shakur gets one on the whiskers, it's solid. He'll revert back to form and go into defensive mode, and could be pretty ugly down the stretch.
Well, I'm really excited for this fight again. I'm not expecting it to be a barn burner in terms of the style clash, but I probably think a little bit different to you about Teofimo. We know exactly what Shakur's going to do, and Shakur's greedy. Like, he doesn't care about the crowd. He doesn't care about punch stats. Like, he's going in there to do what he has to do to win every round, and if that's stand there and throw 4 jabs and make you miss it the whole rest of the round, he's going to do it. He does not care. He's not there to entertain us. He's there to win a fight and not get hit, and I respect that. I have no problem with it. But where I would probably disagree a little bit, I think Teofimo is at his best when his opponent's coming to him, and he can counter and he can use the holes that he sees in the opponent coming forward to his own advantage and take advantage of that athleticism and that speed and that power and catch guys that way. He had really lackluster performances against Jermaine Ortiz, who didn't press him, Sandor Martin, who didn't press him. I thought Sandor Martin won, to be totally honest, and there was a Canadian gentleman in there too whose name I can't remember at the moment. Steve Claggett, there you go. Thank you, mate. All those guys didn't go after Teofimo. They made Teofimo lead. And it was probably Teofimo's 3 most boring, flat, unimpressive performances. So what do you think Shakur's going to do? He's going to stand there and make Teo lead. Teo's not comfortable leading, So, he hasn't shown that he has been up to this point. So I think that we know what Shakur's going to do. So all the onus is going to be on Teo to make this fight, to your point, get on the front foot and create, not react on the back foot, but create his own opportunities against one of the best defensive fighters in the game. Can you do that in one training camp? Maybe. Is he a special talent and at his best, pound for pound level guy? Absolutely. If anyone's capable of it, it's probably him. I just don't think it's going to happen in one training camp. I like Shakur on points, and I think it's going to be a little bit boring. But I'm still excited for the fight. I'm excited to see. I want to see if Teofimo can flip that switch. He's tried a couple of times and not been able to do it. But with respect, he was in with a lot less known guys. Now he's in with a superstar. Now he's in with a 3-weight world champion. So if there's ever a time to turn it on and dial in and show us a gear we haven't seen before, this is the fight. So the question is, can he do it? I don't think so, but I'm excited to see if he can. So it's going to be a great event. But mate, have you got any thoughts about Carlos Adama's Amo Williams? I'm sort of a bit like whatever on that. I'll take it. I'm not sort of like
look,
dying for it,
Meh. it should be a good enough fight, but no real thoughts either way.
Yeah, Bruce Carrington, Carlos Castro, I'm a little bit like that as well. Like, Carlos Castro hasn't fought since September 2024. We actually lost to Cool Boy Steph, but so how he's fighting for a world title, I have no idea. But Keyshawn Davis is back, mate, against a guy we just mentioned, Jermaine Ortiz, at 140 pounds. Like, talk about going from just career high momentum to nothing. When he blew weight by, what was it, 4.5 pounds or something, Keyshawn?
Something around that, yeah.
And then made all these weird excuses and it was just an absolute PR disaster. And you've worked in PR before, so you would know, mate. This is really his Keyshawn's opportunity to redeem himself at a new weight class. I think Jermaine Ortiz is going to make it difficult for him. How do you see this fight playing out? And also, what do you make in terms of like a PR and sort of a broader boxing fan's perspective of sort of the predicament that Keyshawn finds himself in at the moment?
I'll start with the PR question, Zach, and I'll throw a question to you. Actually, I'll put a statement to you. Boxers get worse PR, and their brand goes down around the S-bend more when they miss weight than when they fail at fucking drug test.
Oh, mate, that's probably true.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It is absolutely true. Drug tests get, it's a tainted supplement or whatever, and, it was just some eggs or some Mexican beef, and suddenly fights are sanctioned and just an accident. Don't know how it happened. Yeah, you come in a bit heavy, and it's like, oh, no, you're a fucking cheat, man. You're a fucking cheat. Well, there's different types of cheating, and I don't know. I just find that a weird one. Davis has to rebuild his brand, and more than that, rebuild the public's confidence in him, the fight fans' confidence in him. And I guess this is the starting point for that. I think a lot of the time when there's a lot of money behind you, and certainly when you've come out of a good amateur career and everyone's pissing in your pocket and telling you how great you are, and you're too big to fail. You can get a bit complacent, and then when something does happen and you realise, okay, maybe some sponsors have left, or maybe you're not getting the big fights, or maybe you're still getting the fight you wanted, but your purse has been slashed in half. That the kind of reality hits it. There's a lot of stuff to do off the paddock, so to speak, or outside of the gym from a marketing perspective and a PR perspective to regain that trust from the people that were backing you from day dot to get them back on the bandwagon. So that's probably the first challenge he has, and that starts with again simple things: making weight, winning fights. But it might push your program back by 12 months, 18 months, even 2 years to get back to where you were. So be patient would be my my advice right there. And what was your other question?
How do you see the fight going?
Oh yeah, David should be fine. Again, it's a step back, but it's not the biggest step back. It's a reasonable enough opponent, and probably the right opponent at the right time, I'd say.
Yep. No, well, that's actually a DAZN pay-per-view, that one. So
sign me up.
No, it's a good card. That's an absolute banger of a day, Sunday, February 1st. Might have to take Monday off too. But Tone, I've taken enough of your time, mate. That will do us for the fight portion. We got a KnuckleDown in for the first show of the year, mate. I'm pumped. Hopefully we get another couple in at some stage throughout 2026. But, mate, just coming up for you personally, you've just come off the back of having a massive 5-page feature in the Ring magazine, the print version on Shanika Johnson, which was absolutely sensational. I know you got a ton of great feedback on that, and it was all well-deserved, 100%. What do you got coming up for the year, mate? Anything professionally sort of on the books? What are the plans? Are you got any specific ideas a little bit outside the box? What can the people expect from the Aussie Boxing Scribe for 2026?
The long-awaited book will come out this year. I'm telling you, it's going to come out this year.
Please God, we have spoken about, hinted at this thing, teased it for years on this pod. We're looking forward to it, mate. We want to read it.
I'll probably get hit by a car tomorrow now. You know that.
Oh, don't
Struck by lightning, hit by a car, and burnt to death in a bushfire.
No,
Trampled by a cow, run over by a tractor.
No way, mate. You've never been closer to the finish line, and I am excited. And I know everyone else is too. So that's the main priority for the year, mate. Get the book. Is there any extra information you can sort of give us about the book, potentially? And it's fine if you can't, but I'm just sort of asking. I know people are keen.
It'll be available on pay-per-view for $89.99.
Okay.
No, you put me on the spot, Zach. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay. So the big focus for the first part of the year is get that done and get that out there.
Correct.
Excellent. That's fantastic, mate. And
and also one more thing.
Yeah.
Buying another dog.
Well, you're gonna have to put the flea turkey down. So
one at a time, mate. One in, one out.
Okay. Well, I've got to say, she's been very well behaved, besides that one little flare-up. So I'm coming around. All right, Toad, mate. Well, thanks very much, mate. It's always a pleasure talking to you and learning off you, mate. And I'm sure this will absolutely not be the last time you'll be on this show in 2026, mate. So, yeah, thanks again for your time, mate. And we'll do it again soon.
No worries. Thanks, Zach.
All right, guys. And there it was, the first show of 2026, the first KnuckleDown of 2026. It's always a ton of fun to pull the sheets off and put a bit of oil in the old KnuckleDown and get it going again. And it's always an absolute pleasure and a thrill to do it with the KnuckleDown partner in crime, the Aussie Boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox. And guys, as always, you know I've got the links to all the outlets that Anthony writes for, so you can follow along with him. Also, his personal social media. I think this was the 26th time Anthony's been on this show. You know he's going to be on again, so you would have heard me use all the positive compliments that I can about him. But look, I have not asked anyone for more time than Anthony, and he is always generous enough to give it to me. So if you guys would like to go on and support one of the truly good guys of Australian boxing and one of the most important cogs in the machine that is Australian boxing and coverage and getting fighters' names out there and a really large, important part of the Australian boxing ecosystem, get on board with Anthony Cox. You will not regret it. I can guarantee that. So thank you again to Tone for his time. So guys, 2026, I'm gonna really, I know I've said this before, trust me, I can see and feel everyone rolling their eyes, but this really is, I'm gonna try and make this the year of the TUSC pod consistency. I'm gonna try. I'm really, really going to try and do it. So, to put pressure on myself, I'm going to announce the next one early, which I never do because so many times it falls out. But the plan is to go on Teofimo Shakur fight week. So expect something out the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. Got the guest lined up. Got a confirmation, so on my end it's all going, so we should be back in relative short order, at least compared to the schedule previous years. I've been talking for a long time, guys. Also, just a quick shout out to Lukey Kittel. After recording with Anthony Cox just now, I jumped on his show and did about 45 minutes or so on the Lukey Boxing podcast. So wherever you guys can find that, YouTube, Luke Kittel's Lukey Boxing, Substack, all those places. I believe he did a live episode, which I didn't actually, it was streamed live at the time. So when I got in there, it was on. I'd never done anything live before. And he told me afterwards, he was like, thanks so much, mate. I just had Raul Marquez on before you. I'm like, what the hell? Jesus Christ, I didn't know we were going live. I didn't know I was following a world champions. You put the pressure on, but no, it was a ton of fun to speak to Lukey, and I really appreciate the invite, and I will definitely have him back on this show if he were to be so generous. So, guys, there's been a lot of talking from me today, so I am definitely rambling even more than usual. So I will stop this now, but I'll be back in, what will it be? 2 weeks, maybe slightly less. I can't do maths at the moment, but 2 in the opening month of the year, that would be pretty cool. So, guys, if you want to get in contact with me, you can send me an email at tuskpod@gmail.com. That's TUSCPOD@gmail.com. If you want to throw a tweet at me, you can do that at delivery_man2. Also got the Insta page, guys, but as you know, I just post when there's a new episode, so not a must follow. And jump on the YouTube, guys. I'm going to make it much like I really want to have a consistent year in terms of volume and output this year. I also want to try and get the YouTube growing a little bit too. So I've fixed the camera issue that we had earlier with the previous 2 episodes before I did the hit out at the end of the year. So now we got the video back. I've worked out the bugs. Hopefully going to have a really consistent year in terms of the video issues that I was struggling with last year. So every episode will now be available on YouTube too. And I didn't realize this. I only realized at the end of the year that not only was I editing together the video portion and uploading it to the YouTube channel, but also the hosting site that I use for the audio podcast had also started, and this happened must have been happening for 2 years or something. It was uploading an audio version to YouTube as well, but it just didn't have any video. So you can play the YouTube video and it just shows the pod logo, but it plays the audio. So I didn't realize that for the last year or more, when I started actually doing the proper video episodes, I was actually uploading 2 episodes of the same show to the channel. So there was an audio only episode on YouTube and then an actual video episode on YouTube. So yeah, it took me so long to figure that out. So I apologize for the confusion. So now I've stopped the audio only one. So now each episode will just be the actual edited proper video where you can see people talking and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a bit of a head scratcher, but we got there. So hopefully this is going to be the year of consistency and 0 technical difficulties, but we'll see how we go. But guys, we got a massive fight week coming up. Best of luck to all the fighters. And yeah, let's enjoy it and do what we do best, which is enjoy the fights. So guys, have a good one. I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks and I'll chat to you then.
Well, let's travel, may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake up call, laughing through the window frame.